Greetings, boys and girls! It is me, your forever game master and lover of tabletop RPG, especially Dungeons and Dragons, Emperor Jonwayne Frankenstein. A man who's been playing D&D longer than a lot of you have been alive. We're talking for I don't know, close to 4 decades. Now, the number one question in everyone's mind is the new D&D 2024 worth it? And well, I'll give you my honest opinion and my honest review about the book right now. First of all, now a lot of us were upset, myself included, that they were coming out with this new edition when we love 5th edition so much. We know 5th edition needed to be updated and whatnot and fixed, but we didn't like this idea of coming out with a whole new edition. Well, I gotta say, the first thing you have to say about the new edition is the price. The price is, like for me, I got the special edition that you can only get at the game store, and it was $50. I think the normal version is a little cheaper, or you can at least get it cheaper online. And you know what's amazing? The 2014 5th edition book was the same price. Actually, it was I think $49 for the regular one. They didn't. I don't believe they had a special cover one back then. So, in spite all of inflation, in spite this book being thicker and bigger, in spite Wizards of the Coast having proven to be a little greedy for money, they did not increase the price. They did not make it cost more. So, if you're just starting D&D, when you get a player book, you might want to get the newest rules just for that alone. So I was actually impressed with that. The price was the first thing that got me. Now, the next thing that got me was it was actually pretty well written. Starts out with the basic rules, goes through them in a very logical fashion, then moves on to combat, flowing logically again, and then into character creation. And then at the end of it, they actually have a section that deals with all the conditions, all the rules, in a glossary you can look up with that explains everything. It does a really good job clarifying a lot of the rules from the original set that weren't very clear. And I gotta admit, in the original set, a lot of the problems I have when running the game is when someone asks about a specific condition or rule, or argues about a ruling you made and says, well, that's not what the rules say, and everyone has to stop, you have to look it up, and it takes a long time because the original book wasn't very intuitive, wasn't very organized, but this one doesn't suffer from that. So already there's a huge thing for it. And then the artwork. The artwork is actually really great. Very beautiful artwork indeed. Now, some of the changes they made. One of the big ones they made is in races. Now they call them species. And backgrounds. They changed that. They changed everything. They took how character creation works and made it more intuitive and easier to follow. First, you choose your class. Then, you assign your stats. Then you choose your background. And now, your background helps you choose. That's what chooses your ability scores, which makes sense. And then you choose your race. So your background gives you your nurture to help modify your character. Your species gives you your nature, your racial abilities. Well, they like to call them species. Some people complain because they thought that was wolf, but it doesn't matter. The point is, it flows logically and really well, and does an even better job than the original 5th edition did of making the 3-part process of creating your character, where you choose your class and then get your stats based off that, then choose your background, what you did before you became an adventurer, and then your species, what you were born as. It all flows really nicely and helps create a good character. Then they have tables that help you generate descriptions of your character based on your stats and your alignment. That helps you role play it. And actually, I was really impressed. I like the improving the backgrounds. The backgrounds now give you 2 skills, 1 proficiency, and a feat. And that's great. I love the fact that they actually made feats important in this one and gave everyone a feat to begin with. Now, the next big change they made was weapons. Weapons now have something called a mastery, and basically what that is if you're a non-spell casting character, you have this masteries you can get where each day you can choose like 2 weapons and use their mastery ability as long as you're proficient in them. And this basically gives you just a little more options and makes the weapons a little more interesting in your choices. Some of them will knock people down, some of them push them back 5 feet, some of them will make it easier to do extra attacks with an offhanded weapon, some will make it easier for you to attack with other weapons. Some of them let you damage people close by. I mean, it makes combat a little more interesting and a lot more strategic and gives the non-spellcasters a few more options that makes them just a little more flavorful and helps them compete just a little more with the full spellcasting brothers. So I'm actually thought that was a good change. Um, the feats now are organized where everyone starts out with a feat, and it's no longer an optional thing, which was great because that was one thing we loved about 3.5 was feats. And they made different feats. Now there's origin feats, and each one of your backgrounds comes with one of them. So that's something you factor in when you're choosing a background. And of course, if you take human, you get an extra one of your choice, which is great. Then they have the ability score adjustments or the other feats that you can get with them that all give you a +1 to ability plus the other powers that the feats had. And then, of course, they have the epic feats at the end, and they have the martial feats that you can get if you're a warrior and you get a fighting style. So, I actually like what they did with the feats. I like what they did with that. I was really happy. I was really impressed. Um, they redid some of the spells and balanced them out. I don't necessarily agree with all the changes, but they did what they did, and they have quite a few spells in here. Some of your favorites might be missing, but in theory, if your game master allows you to, you can use them as well. They made all the classes more streamlined. They made it so all you get your subclass at level 3 for all of them, and you get the subclass abilities for each class at the same levels. Good clarification. They clarified the rules on crafting and on tools. They tell you what abilities they use. They tell you what you can do with them. They tell you what you can make with them. They tell you how long it takes to craft items and what it does with crafting. One thing I found interesting is they made the musket and the pistol regular martial weapons that are obtainable and usable by anyone. I guess they decided that primitive firearms are now just part of D&D, but they've been appearing a lot for a long time in a lot of different D&D worlds and such. So that's not bad. They do a little more damage than other weapons, but you can only make one attack with them, period. There's no way to get past the loading quality, which means you can only shoot once around with them. So while they do more damage, you don't get as much attacks. So for a character with multiple attacks, not that great. And of course, they're martial weapons, so your average sorcerer and wizard doesn't have access to them. Now, if you're a cleric that has martial proficiency, where you don't get the extra attacks, it might be something. It might be kind of cool. I mean, going around being a priest with a gun. Sounds like fun. Granted, at higher levels, your cantrips are going to be doing more damage. So, meh. So all in all, I gotta say, it's well organized. They made they improved character creation. They improved the rules. They improved a lot of the conditions and understandings. They made it easier to find what you needed to. It's a really nicely looking book, very intuitive, beautiful artwork. I have nothing to complain about it at all, and I'm I I make videos where I try to do optimal builds with character classes, and I find myself now using this one because I find I enjoy character creation with 2024 better than I liked with 5th edition. So my opinion is this: if you're someone who loves D&D and you're a regular player, you might as well buy it. I mean, if you're only going to play 5th edition and you're never going to do it, fine. But a lot of people are going to switch to this 2024. It doesn't cost more to buy this than does the original book. Granted, you can get used books and whatnot. And they'll probably go down a lot now that this one came out. But I wanted to hate this book. I wanted to not buy this book. I was mad at Wizards of the Coast for all their shenanigans. I was mad at them for replacing 5th edition. I absolutely wanted to hate on this and see it fail. But now that I have a copy in my hands, now that I played it, now that I reviewed it, now that I made characters with it, now that I read it, now that I looked through the rules, I actually like it. I like it a lot. I think it's a huge improvement on 5th edition. And I think that if you use this book instead of the other player's book, your sessions will go a lot easier because you'll be able to find what you need to find when you need to find it a lot faster. So the bottom line is, I have to recommend it. The bottom line is, it does its job and it does it well. The bottom line is, as a game master and a player, I have to admit, this is an improvement. This is better than the 5th edition. And I recommend it. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to take my word for it. And you probably invested a lot of money in 5th edition and don't want to have to buy more books. But you check it out and try it. I'm sure you'll probably agree with me. Because I'm like you. I didn't want to have to buy a new book. I didn't want to buy anything from Wizards of the Coast after some of the shenanigans they pulled. But it has improved my game. I'm having more fun using it. And I'm liking it better. I can't be more honest with you than that. That's the bottom line. So don't take my word for it. Go try it for yourself. A lot of the game stores are running like a free game. Play it. See if you like it. You'll probably find someone who has a copy of it and wants to run it. Play it with them. Try it out and see for yourself. I recommend it. I think it's an improvement. I'm happy with it. Now, if you want to boycott D&D entirely for political reasons, because you're against Wizards of the Coast, I get it. I understand it. But if you love D&D, you want to play D&D, you want to play the best version of D&D, this book is it. It's that simple.